Hi, I'm Bob Sweeney with the City of Juneau Cable Channel 991, back with another episode of the Juneau Garden. Well, we're going to change it a little bit though. I've made a little trip out here to rural Horicon to visit the garden of Gary Willard. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Bob.
All right. We're standing in front of a very large area of worked up garden here. But I don't see much growing. What's going on?
Well, to begin with, when we bought this land in 1974, we moved in probably early April. And this particular garden spot was a junkyard. And they had cars here that they burned. And I didn't notice anything wrong with that until I started finding all the chunks of lead from the batteries that had melted.
Oh my.
And I farmed it, or we grew our garden here for about 15 years. And apparently we've had no effects that we know of from the heavy metals of the burning. But I decided that, gee, I wanted to get away from that. So I went over to a square foot gardening system as a way to change the soil, so I wouldn't have to be subjected to the heavy metals, particularly the lead. And that's how we, so right now I just till it to keep the weeds down, and we will grow pumpkins in here, mostly for decoration purposes. And that's what we do with the land right here.
So the real garden's up there now, isn't it?
Yes.
All right, let's
And
go
much smaller.
much smaller. So you had a family, of course, and they've all grown up and moved away?
Yes.
And you don't have as much need for a large garden as you used to?
Correct.
Well, let's go see what you've got going.
Okay.
Now, you talked about your square foot gardening, but this is not square foot gardening here, is it?
No, it's not. It's traditional gardening.
All right, and you've got tomatoes planted here, and what do you have here?
Eggplant.
Pardon me?
Eggplant.
Eggplant. Why do you have these tomatoes out here in this manner?
Well, I start my own seeds early in probably March, and I use a grow light. And I had other plants, some pepper plants that I was planning on growing, but they didn't come up. They didn't sprout. So I ended up with about 9 extra tomato plants. And I didn't know what to do with them, so I put them in the ground.
I see.
And this is a traditional way of planting them. I do plan on pruning them severely, but to keep them so they'll stay within the cages.
And these are homemade cages, right? You made these yourself, right?
Yes.
And what kind of material did you use?
It's concrete reinforcing wire.
Okay, all right.
I make them about, they're just about 2 feet in diameter. Not many bigger, but quite a few of them got smaller.
Now, when you planted them, how did you plant them?
We just dug a hole, put some purple cow mix inside the hole to give them a little fertilizer base, and fill them back up with water. I mean, back up with the soil and watered them.
Did you plant them the same level they came up at with your seedling?
Pretty much.
Oftentimes I've heard you plant them really deep. That way the roots will grow out of the stem. You get more root that way.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if I did that here or not. I just planted them down. I was digging into a heavy clay when I got down more than 8 inches, more than 10 inches.
So you're going to get a lot of tomatoes here. How do you preserve them?
Mostly we eat them, but we also make tomato sauce. We drink a lot of tomato juice. and that's pretty much. And we give a lot away.
All right, let's move on a little bit. All right, we're in your strawberry patch, and a very nice one it looks like.
It works out well this year. The weather must have cooperated with strawberries.
See, they're just coming ripe now, huh?
Yes,
Have you picked before?
we picked once a couple days ago.
A couple days ago. So they're just coming right now. You do have them in rows, don't you? Now, how do you handle that, making them in rows?
When they all, at the end of the growing season, they kind of all go together, and I look where I want the berries, and I mow the rest of it out and leave a strip, probably about a foot wide, maybe a foot and a half wide, or 2 strips actually. And that's all we do with it. Then I cover them with straw for the winter.
Okay. All right, they're beautiful. Do you fertilize these?
I have not fertilized these in the last 3 or 4 years, but I didn't grow anything here either.
Oh, I see. So how'd you get such a large patch if you haven't been growing anything in here for a while?
Well, I had one patch, and then the next year we got.
Oh, I see. It just kept, your runners just kept moving out.
Yeah, runners move out, so I got to contain them. And
I see. And what variety are these?
these are Dunlap. I don't know if it's Senator Dunlap or Dunlap. When we moved into town, it was Willard Mosky out on Highway 33 said, "Oh, we got extra strawberry plants." So we said, "Okay, we'll take them." Well, that was how I chose the variety. I figured if I had a local resident saying this is the best, I'll accept their word for it.
Yeah, that's how I got my strawberries too. My mother had some extra ones, and she just dug some out and threw them in a box, and I took them home and planted them. Now we've got strawberries that my mother used to have. All right, very good. Well, now we're in your 4-foot garden section, aren't we?
Yes.
Right, and what's the size of your boxes?
They're 4 foot by 4 foot.
Okay.
This is a traditional plan as they describe in the book on square foot gardening.
Okay.
And this is pretty much exactly as I interpreted how it should be made.
Okay. And what crop do we have here?
This is cabbage. It's a late cabbage. It's a flat Dutchman, I think is the name. It's a pretty big cabbage. Runs about 10 pounds, maybe a little bit less. And obviously we like sauerkraut. We make a lot of sauerkraut, so
Okay.
it works well for that.
And how many plants did you get into this size box?
There's one per square foot, and this one here I've divided it into nine sections, which would be 9 16-inch squares, but one per square.
So you've got 9 in here.
8. I only planted 8,
Oh,
so
I see.
I used one for some kohlrabi, one of the squares.
So you have kohlrabi in here too?
Yeah, just one square, but they're gone.
They're gone. So you started these really early then?
Very early, probably end of February.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The plan is to get them planted about 5 weeks before the last frost.
Before the last frost?
Yeah. Now that didn't work this year because all the ground was frozen. So I had to wait a little bit. Plants grew bigger under the sunlight, under the grow lights.
Tell us about your growing medium, because it's not regular garden soil, is it?
It's synthetic.
Yeah, so what is it?
It's sphagnum peat moss, perlite, and compost material.
And you compost your own material?
I'm learning how. I used to just buy it at the store in little bags that would say compost and put that in. through looking at how good the stuff that I bought was, I thought I could do better myself.
Oh.
So now I'm learning how to do composting, and that looks like it works better.
Oh, okay. So we have cabbage. What do we have behind us here?
These are planted from seeds, or onions are planted from onion sets. The kale is planted from seed.
So these were not in your grow light garden.
Right.
Okay.
So notice these are all cold weather crops. All of these, everything in here likes to grow in cool weather. In fact, many of them won't grow at all in the summer.
Hmm.
This is Swiss chard through here. That came up really well.
And Swiss chard, I don't know if I've had that before. Is that something that you cook, or is it a salad material? What?
Yes.
Okay, both. Okay.
It's probably a coarser version of spinach. And you use it just like spinach.
So you can eat it raw.
You can eat it raw. You can cook it. Cooks down. I think it's a little more temperature tolerant. Spinach doesn't like hot weather. This is a little more tolerant. Red cabbage and some more. This is kale that I had grown inside. Planted early and then transplanted them. The same with the red cabbage, and I have broccoli over here.
And this is, you know how many cabbage you were able to get in there?
I'm going to go with 8.
Okay, and these are a smaller variety than
Yeah,
your...
much smaller. Quite a bit of different flavor. We use them differently. I've never used the red cabbage for sauerkraut, but I have, we do make them into a coleslaw. And there's a kind of a warm coleslaw that we can make out of them, or a warm mix that has the bacon-like dressing on it. Very tasty. So I'm out here, waiting. Hurry up, hurry up.
All right.
And I don't know what's the problem with my broccoli. I don't seem to be getting any broccoli shoots.
Very large
any
plants.
broccoli
Yeah.
flowers.
Right. Any of the vegetable you want.
Yeah, I do. This is another box where I planted them all with seeds. Everything in here was with seeds. Out of my whole section here, a third of this plot, I got one plant of spinach came up.
Oh, jeez. That's kind of frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I got a lot of Swiss chard, so.
All right.
The radishes, well, they grew pretty good, but they kind of bolted and got hot. They're bigger than they should be, but the weather was going through a lot of transition here, from cold to hot, back to cold, up to hot. Should have been planted earlier. And then the beets I have up here.
And those are all seed, right? This is
Those are all seeds.
Looks like you've got some rabbit damage.
Yeah, there are. I've seen a rabbit or two.
Imagine that. All right. So later on, will you plant more spinach when it gets cooler or not?
Right now I'm kind of looking to put some summer crops in here.
Like what?
I might go in and buy some plants for peppers since I didn't get any. And I'll be looking at carrots, and carrots are not necessarily summer, but they grow later in the year. And beans, green beans.
But those you'd plant from seed.
Yes.
Yeah. Looks like you have some different size boxes here.
Yes, we planted these strawberries here, and I put them in a different size box because it was easier to pick into the middle. And strawberries, you got to get really close to feed them all and be able to pick them without damaging the plants. These are a day neutral type of strawberry plant. The variety is Seascape. I bought these plants because it was the only thing they had at the store when I was looking for ever-bearing plants.
Ah, okay.
I could find nothing that said they were not good, but I don't know if they're good for this area or not. We do get our strawberries off of them. They give us like 4 crops a year, and they're enough to keep us in strawberries after we have picked all of the regular
The June bearing.
the June bearing. So we always have fresh strawberries. If I were to fertilize them better, they get to be very big.
Hmm.
And so that's our experiment here.
This is an experiment.
Yeah.
So how long have you had these?
About 3 years.
And you're still experimenting?
Well, it's kind of hard to work in there sometimes because I got to know how to transplant them to the next area.
All right.
And it has the same soil mix that I use in the other boxes.
Okay. We have some more tomatoes.
More tomatoes, yep. These are, I designed these boxes just for the tomatoes. And the idea being here that we do plant them horizontally. The root system comes back through here. Laying flat. They should be a little bit closer to the support. I'm sure when they get bigger, they'll move. I'll move them and tie them to the support.
So you tie them to the outside of the cage?
Yes, and but it is also my intention to use them as a single stem. All 4 of these, each one will have one main stem.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I can read and what I listen to on the internet, you'll get just as many tomatoes with a single stem, but the season will be infinitely long. And
So these are indeterminate tomatoes.
yes,
And these are the same varieties we saw earlier?
I have 2 varieties. These are one variety and that's another variety. This variety is a super steak.
These are the big ones.
Pretty big, yeah.
Okay.
And the whole idea of the single stem is not to get more tomatoes, but to get them earlier. So you're getting tomatoes instead of at the middle to end of August. You're getting them more in the end of July.
So you have to do a significant amount of pruning.
Yes, constantly coming out, taking off these little sprouts that come out here. What do you call them? Water
Suckers.
Suckers.
Yeah,
Taking
sucker.
off the suckers. The leaf underneath the sucker is just a leaf, which becomes a new stem, which can create more tomatoes. And that's how they get to be so big and unwieldy. So if you got to keep cutting that off, and you got to make sure you don't cut the too many off. Most of the plants use their green. It's usually the part above the tomatoes that feeds them. The parts below, not so much.
Okay.
At least that's my interpretation of what I'm reading, hearing, seeing. And yes, I will get these plants, tomatoes, off of the soil, so I won't have the leaves on the soil when it gets just a little bit longer. I should say.
So these are going to be single stem. How about the ones in the traditional garden? Will those be single stem as well?
I might try to get 2 or 3. I have grown them where I get just an infinite amount, and I can't even get my hands in there because there are too many vines.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to cut it back some way.
Yeah.
And that's the plan.
Okay. And we have a couple other of those eggplants.
Those are eggplants.
Okay. Is this a companion plant, or is there space for them?
It's both. It's what I don't know about the companion, if it helps any, but it's what I had to plant.
And there was room there.
And there was room.
That's kind of the way I do things sometimes too.
These plants up here are what we call our Christmas tomato. And the reason I call them the Christmas tomato is because they're red and black and green. And they came in I bought a box of plants at the nursery, and it said, these are natural tomatoes. They're not a hybrid.
Right. Heirloom tomatoes.
Heirloom tomatoes. So I bought those. Well, I thought they'd be all the same, but they weren't. There was 6 plants, and I got 6 different kinds of tomatoes out of them.
So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, it was interesting watching them grow, but these particular ones are very hardy. I mean, these are the first ones to put their fruit out. These particular seeds here are about 8 years old, and they're the first ones to sprout and strong. But now I'm out of seeds, so I have to.
You have to save these.
I got to save these, and that's. And again, the root system comes out underneath here, and the plant turns up because the plant always wants to grow up.
Yeah.
And I will attempt to keep these as a single stem.
Mm-hmm. And when you built your boxes, you just found whatever material you happen to have available, huh? This is interesting. You've got this corrugated plastic here. Is that working out pretty well?
Well, I built it this year. I had to look for a cheaper way. If you build these out of wood,
mm-hmm.
You can spend up to $100 a box. That's just for the box without the material in it. And this is all scrap wood that I had laying around.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, that'll work. I can make that. All I got to do is hold the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And this one was a roofing material that you have on a roof on a
mm-hmm.
pole building. So
now, was this scrap material as well?
No, this I bought.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's like $20 worth of this roofing material in here. I thought, well, with the corrugated, I got the strength.
Mm-hmm.
Should be able to hold it so it doesn't bend too much. I do notice a little bit of warp there, but I'll see how it holds up.
Yeah, you can always stick another 2x along the side here, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, just go along the side and shove it in if I need more support.
Yeah. Now, you've got cardboard underneath, so the growing material is the only thing the roots can growing into that won't go down into the soil?
They'll go through the cardboard.
They'll go through the cardboard.
Better than they'll go through a barrier, a cloth barrier.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go through the cardboard,
mm-hmm.
according to the internet.
So did you prepare the soil underneath this, or did you just put it right over the top of the lawn?
It's right over the top of the lawn.
Okay. All right. And then over here we have some peas.
Peas. Now I got half my peas came up.
Half of them came up.
Again, when it was time to plant the peas, the ground was frozen.
It's not how they got to the camera.
So it doesn't work too well to plant them then, so I waited, and I probably waited too long before I got it back out. And half of my peas came up.
Plant again.
Now it's too warm for peas.
They'll come. You've got a covering over here. Did you use a cover on this?
I used it in the fall, but not in the spring. There's a special they had over at Gurney's. We got it for about half price. I thought, well, that's a pretty good price for that. And
So you're going to plant something else in here when the peas are done.
Beans. This is, I pull one out and I'll put beans in here
Yeah.
next time.
And you need to put in carrots yet?
No.
And peppers?
Peppers, carrots, kohlrabi.
Kohlrabi?
I'll plant that in the fall, but I need cauliflower. I want to get in.
Okay.
I know, I got my list of when I'm supposed to plant it, but you know, I'm supposed to plant it on Memorial Day, so I'm way behind. But
Well, sometimes you get busy doing other things, like going to Utah.
yeah, or Minnesota.
Well, thanks a lot. I do appreciate you your garden here.